just had information. Yeah. I think personally, everybody on this call should, regardless of how the program is going, should always try and ensure that they get to the end of their modules before they attempt any code challenge or MCQ. Now, this particular session is split into two. On Fridays, there's the module explanation. On Fridays, we explain the modules. On Sundays, we do the walkthrough. Now, if somebody is coming to explain the modules on Friday and you're asking questions that you should have gotten, or you should have, let's say, you should have like a basic knowledge of during the module or during the course of going through the module, then it keeps dragging people backwards. So that is why the session is being split into two. So you tend to just be able to understand faster or easier because you've gone through it initially. Then the person that is coming to explain just explains the concept so you can understand it better. Not that the person has to go through each line of the module again and again and again. So thank you very much, CY. Thank you very much. Um, thank you very much, Musa. The session is handed over to you guys. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for that clarification, ROS. So that is what we are going to be doing today. For those who are not there, maybe on Friday, the links, I think the links were shared on the groups, and they're also going to be reshared so that we can rewatch. So allow me to take you into the code challenge itself. Just a minute, please. Okay. Okay, so this is the guide that had been provided within within your modules, and I will just take us through this briefly, and then after that, I'm going to take us through some maybe some content about functions. I'm going to take us about on the concept of functions. But to just beginners, maybe it's good we go through this guide. So this was a notebook. This was a notebook that was supposed to guide us on doing the code challenge. And when we were agreeing on this, on whether to go through the code challenge itself, we realized that it might not be good, or even it might be against the ALX policy to discuss the code challenge here. So what I did, I just created I created something about the code challenge, and that is what we're going to go through. So the code challenge was majorly about these specific functions. It was about functions. And for those people who have not done it, maybe you're going to come across different functions that you are going to be required, or even you're going to be required to write some codes within your code challenge. So it was all about different functions, and we are going to use these functions to submit our answers, or even we are going to write a series of different codes. So this is the general syntax for a function. That is the general syntax for a function. So a function has different aspects. It has different aspects, or even let me call them different parts. It has different parts. So we have the function name. We usually have the function name, the one in blue. And then we have the inputs. And then we have the return, that is now the output. And then apart from that, we also have the definition. So we always begin functions with a definition. We define the function. So in this case, the DEF tells Python that you are trying to define something. You're trying to define something. Yeah, the same way that whenever we are maybe asked about a specific concept, we define that concept. Maybe what is science, what is technology. So in that case, you give a definition. So DEF tells Python that you are defining a function. So now what follows after DEF is the function name. So you have the function name, and the function name is always the name that you give to your function. What do you want to call your function in this case? Maybe it might be a function about maybe the trees. Maybe it might be a function about houses. It might be a function about maybe towns. Anything in that case. So you come up with a function name, and then we have the input. Now, the input is the information that you feed into your function, and this one is always optional. It is always optional. Some functions do not need an input, and we are going to go through some of those functions that do not need an input. Some of them do not need an input, so we are going to go through that. So inside the function, you write your code that processes the input. So this is where you write your code. That is where you write your code. And then after writing your code, you now return an output. So this keyword is very, very important. It is very, very important. It tells Python, after now running that specific code, return this. So return what? The result, or even the output in that case. So return is a keyword that tells Python what the function should output. What is the output? After running all this code, what is the output? The output is what comes after the return keyword. You also look at the indentation in this case. The word return, or even the keyword return, should be aligned vertically with the function name. The two should be aligned vertically in that case. Okay, so that is the general syntax for any function in Python. That is the general syntax for any function in Python. So you basically start by defining the function, and you define a function by giving its name, and maybe the input in that case, which would be optional. And then the last part would be now the output. What do you want to be the output after the code has been maybe synthesized or even analyzed? So this is an example. This is an example of a simple function. This is an example. So we want to come up with a basic function, in this case, that assigns the string tractor or harvester to a variable name. The variable name here is a vehicle, the vehicle type, the type of vehicle. So that is our name. That should be now the name of the function, vehicle type. In this case, the type of vehicle might be a tractor, it might be a harvester, it might be maybe a Nissan, any type of vehicle. So this is our name. This will be our variable name. And then our input in this case would be now the name of the vehicles. That is the tractor, the harvester, the Nissan, the cars, and many others in that case. So we want to assign this specific input to this variable name. That is what we want. So that means that we are going to come up with a function. So the first thing, we define the function. We define the function. We are going to define the function, and our function, our variable name is vehicle type. And this vehicle type is followed by an input. For this case, the input is, it is something that is that can be anything. In this case, the input can be any type of vehicle. That is why we are not specifying the input in that case. It can be any type of vehicle. Now, for some cases, if we were talking about something like, let me just write something here. If we're talking about maybe something, maybe sites, maybe let me talk about rectangle sites in that case. Rectangle sides. Now, in this case, if I was talking about rectangle sides, we know that we only have two sides in a rectangle. We have the length and the width. So for that case, the input might include only two things. That is the length and the width. The length and the width. And the width in that case. But in this case, we are talking about vehicles. And we have so many vehicles. That is why the input is something that is dynamic, something that changes. It can be anything. So we've defined our function, and we've given the name of the function in this case. So we can now input our code here. And then after inputting our code, what do we want to return? What do we want to return in that case? What do we want as the output? That is what should follow. Okay, so the example that is just below there, as you can see in this case, we've defined the vehicle name, and then the vehicle type in this case is equal to the input. So whatever we type as our input would be now regarded as the vehicle type. So if we input maybe harvester, then that would be our vehicle type. If we input maybe a transit, that is, then that would be regarded as our vehicle type. If we input maybe Nissan, then that would be our vehicle type. So this is now our code, and these are the parts that you are required to change, or even that was what you are supposed to tamper with during or even when doing the code challenge. The others were supposed to remain the way they were. Okay, so now our output should be the vehicle type in this case. And we've said that the vehicle type is equivalent to the input, what we input. So for example, if the vehicle type is equals to tractor, if the vehicle type is equals to tractor in that case, then if you run this, you're going to see, let me run this from the very beginning. I've not been running that. Just a minute. Restart and run up to the selected cell. So in this case, if you run that, if we run this specific code, then we are going to see the output being tractor. The output in this case is tractor. Why is it tractor? Because we've said that the vehicle type should be equivalent to the input, what we input in this case. And our input in this case is tractor. So that would mean that our vehicle type in this case, or even our output, would be tractor. So this returns the string tractor. And I hope that that is a bit clear. If it isn't clear, then we are also going to go through a lot of examples to ensure that we are well conversant with this. Okay, so the input in this case is a variable name. It is a variable name for any input into the function. So whatever we input would be the output, or even it would be now the output for our specific function. Okay, so if we run this specific code here, the vehicle type being tractor, then the output would also be tractor. The output would be tractor. If we change that to car, we change the input to car, then the output would be also car, as you can see. So we've changed this to car, then the output would be car. We can change this to anything, maybe Nissan, and run that. After running that, what we get is Nissan. That is the vehicle type in our case. So one thing about these functions is that we will not be repeating them over and over. You just define a function, and with that function, you are able to do a series of maybe, you are able to do a series of different maybe commands. You are able to run a series of commands using the same function. Okay, so there is always a hidden input we never see, and to make sure we code the challenge and don't just fake an answer. In this case, the hidden input is harvester. So if we want our output to be harvester, then we change the input to harvester. So vehicle type in this case is equal to harvester. And after running that, what we get is an harvester. So after now finishing, or even after ensuring that all the cells run smoothly from the top to the bottom without returning an error, and for you to ensure that they run smoothly, or even to confirm that they run smoothly without maybe generating an error, you just restart and run all the cells. If there are errors, you're going to see them. If there are errors within your notebook, you're going to see them. You're going to see them. It's not going to run until the last part here. So this tells us that all our cells are running successfully. and our codes are actually giving outputs. So for this case, after ensuring that everything runs out successfully, you are supposed to maybe change the name of this. You change the name of this specific notebook. You can decide to change it over here. You can just change it over here. It will you'll see maybe a pop-up that is that whereby you can do the change. So you can change the name of the notebook. But in my case, I'm not going to change that. So, or else you can also download the same notebook. Now, for my case, the notebook is saved within my local storage, and I didn't change the location. So since I didn't change the location, after saving everything, after clicking on save, there's a save button. After clicking on save, everything that I changed, any changes that I made within my notebook are going to be saved within the local storage. That is within my file, the one that is within the local storage. So if I go back to my file explorer, the document that I'm going to find there is going to be the updated one, the new document, the one that I've just made some changes. So with that, you are now sure that your document is updated. So you can either change the name using this specific option by clicking on the name of the document, and then you change the name, or you can download the name, or even you can go back to your local storage. You go back to your local storage and maybe make a copy. You come up with a copy of your document and rename one of the documents to avoid losing the original. And then after now you're done with that, the next thing that you are supposed to do is you are supposed to create a zipped file, of which I'm going to show you that. But before I show you that, let me take you to maybe something else, a continuation of what we were just learning about. Okay. So this is a summary. This is a summary of the data structures. I'm not going to take you through that. So we've done an introduction about functions. And why should we use functions? Number one is that they are reusable. They are reusable. So we write code once and we use it many times. So functions are highly reusable. That is one importance, or even one reason as to why people opt into using these functions. They are highly reusable. Number two is for organization. They break complex problems into smaller pieces. They are highly reusable, and apart from that, they are for organization, helping in breaking complex problems into smaller pieces, and we are going to maybe see something about it. The other one is readability. They make our code to be highly readable, and they also make it easy for the code to be understood. And then the last one is on maintenance. It is easier to fix bugs and make changes within functions. It is very, very easy for you to know where you went wrong, or even you've gone wrong, as long as you're using a function. Okay, so I talked about the syntax. I'm not going to take you through that. Now, this is a simple function that has no parameters. This is a function without parameters. Remember, we said that we can have a function without parameters and we can have functions with parameters. So we have different types of functions. We have those that have parameters and we have those that do not have parameters. Those that do not have parameters, what does that mean? That means that they do not have inputs. They do not require inputs. For example, this one does not have an input. While we have others which have parameters, that means that they require inputs, or even they have inputs. Now, for example, in this case, this is a function that defines the greeting name, the greeting name. For example, in this case, we are defining greet. How should we greet people? Assume you've met someone. How do you greet them? So in this case, we are defining greet. And then this is our code. This is our code. So we want to, in this case, we are going to print this specific string. This is just a string. Hello, welcome to Python programming. That is just a string. It is just a string. So we've defined greet in this case. And what are we printing out? This is what we are printing out. Hello, welcome to Python programming. And then let us now call out the function and see what is going to be the output. So in this case, I'm calling it twice. We can call it a multiple number of times. So once you call the greeting, in this case, then this is what is going to happen. You're going to see the string as the output. So once, or even what this means is that anytime you want to greet someone, or even anytime you type this greet into brackets, then this is what is going to be the output. This specific string here, that is what is going to be the output. So we've defined the variable and we've also defined the output. What is the output? The output is this. That is the output. So just like I said, a function must have a function name. Parameters are not a must. In this case, the parameters, it is the input, it is not a must. And you must have a result. What is the result in that case? In our case, the result here is this specific output here. Every time greet is called up, this is the output that comes out. And it is a string. Okay. So you can call a function more than once. You can call it out more than once, and it's going to actually appear within the output more than once. Now, the second one, in this case, we are defining this variable name, this function with this variable name, that is a greet of a person. We want to greet a person by their name. We want to greet a person by their name. And anytime we greet that person by their name, in that case, anytime we are using this is going to be the output. So the first thing we are going to return or even output hello, that is a string. Remember, it's within this parenthesis, not parenthesis, but quotation marks, double quotation marks. So we are going to print out hello, then followed by their name. Remember, the name here is the input. The name is the input. So that if I have the variable name plus the name, then the output would contain hello. The output is going to have hello plus the name and then plus this specific piece of string. This is just a string. And I hope that is also clear. I hope it also makes sense. So let me repeat that again. We've defined this specific function, and the function is called greet person. We want to greet a person by their name in this case. In this case, our input is going to be the different names of people. It might be Musa, it might be Kelvin, it might be Cynthia, it might be Joanne, and a lot more in this case. So we can't list all those names under the input here, or even within the input. We can't list all those names. So what we are going to do is that we are going to write the name of the person as the input in this case. So, and then this is what we are going to be now calling out. We are going to be calling out the greet person, that is now the function, with the name. And this is the condition. When this one is called out, then what are you going to print? Print out, or even what are you going to return? What is now the result? We return this specific string, hello, plus the name of the person. If it was Alice, you return Alice, plus welcome to Python programming. If the name is Bob, then we also do the same. We replace the name with the name that has been input. If the name is Musa Peter, then we replace the name with the name that has been input in this case. And let us run that and see what we are going to have. So in this case, you can see the first one was greet. It was hello, Alice. Welcome to Python programming. The second one, the name is Bob. Then the third one, it's Musa Peter. So like the input is what is changing in this case. The input is changing. Now, for those people who might be asking, why are we using this F? The F in this case represents is a format in this case. So once we use this F, we are able to use these specific brackets within our string. We are able to use these specific brackets within our string. And maybe I am very, very sure that you are well conversant with that, from the concept of lists and also the concept of tuples and also sets. Okay, so that is it. Now let us proceed to the other one. this is now a function with a return value. So we have different functions. The first one had no parameters, it had no input. The second one had an input, it had a parameter. The third one, it has a return value. And what is a return value? Well, we are going to learn from this example. So in this case, we are defining add numbers. Assume we want to add any two numbers. In this case, we want to add any two numbers. So our function name would be add numbers. And which numbers are we adding? We are adding A and B. A and B represents any two values that we want to add. So A represents the first value, B represents the second value. A represents the first value, B represents the second value. So now the result would be A plus B. This is now the code. This is our code. We want to add A plus B. So what would be now the result? The result would be A plus B. So now our return, we are going to return the result as the output. We are going to return result as the output. So now, since we already have that, let us do a few examples. Let us do some a few examples to see whether that is going to work. So using the returned value, sum1 is equals to add numbers. This is our variable name or even our function name. Add numbers, and in our case here we are going to add 5 and 3. That one should give us 8 as the output. And then sum2 should be 10 plus 20. So what this function does, it adds the number within the first value, that is A. A would now stand for all the values that are now within the first position in this case. And then B would be the second values. So our sum2 would be 10 plus 20. So this is equals to the variable name in this case, and then we enclose that with the input. What is the input? 10 and 20. We want to add them. And then we call them out. What is our sum1? Now this is just a string. This is just a string that should appear within our printout. So what is our sum1 and what is our sum2? And then apart from that, we also want to know the sum of both results. That is sum1 plus sum2. Let us call that out, and we are going to see what we have. So in this case, you can see 5 plus 3 is equals to 8. Now remember, this was a string. That was a string. So this one is not part of our code, but it was just a string. If I delete this, then let me just delete that so that you see what I'm talking about. So you can see after deleting that, you now have 8 as the output for sum1, 30 as the output for sum2, which is 20 plus 10. And now that plus 8 gives us that 8. So that 8 as the output for sum3, or even as the sum of both of them. So that is what I was talking about. So in this case, we have a return value. So once we add the first value plus the second value, then return the result in our case. So we are now learning that we have different types of functions, those with parameters or even inputs, those without inputs, and those with return values. So like for the first ones, we are not using return. We were just writing print. But for these ones, we are having return. More examples. Let us now talk about functions with multiple parameters and return values. Functions with multiple parameters and return values. So these ones, they have multiple parameters, that is multiple inputs, and they also have a return value. Functions with multiple parameters and also a return value. And in this case, assume we want to calculate the area of a rectangle. We know that the area of a rectangle should have, or even it is given by two parameters in this case. We need the length, and we also need the width. We need the length and also the width for our case. So we have to now input our code. What is our code? Our code is equals to area is equals to length times width. So we pick the first value times the second value, just like we did here. This was sum. So we pick the first value plus the second value. So our area would be length plus width. We can replace this with A and B. Length as L, width as W in that case, and it will still work. So after running that, what are we supposed to return? We return area. This should be our now output. What is the area? And area would be given by picking length times width. So we now want to calculate the area of different rectangles. We want to calculate the area of different rectangles. We want to calculate the area of different rectangles. So the first area, area 1, is equals to, so we now pick our function name, and then we now replace length and width with the values. 5 represents the length and 3 represents the width. That is our area 1. Our area 2, these are areas for different rectangles. Area 2 represents area for the second rectangle. So area 2 is equals to our variable name in this, our function name. Then we now put an input, or even we replace length and width with the values 10 and 7. And for our case, we are going to only, or even this function is only going to accept, or even it's only going to output something that is true if what you have as input are maybe integers or even floating point numbers in that case. Otherwise, if you use strings, then you can't multiply strings. It might be a bit hard. You might end up receiving an error in that case. So area 2 is equals to the calculate area into brackets, 10 as the length, 7 as the width. So now what is our output? We can also add another one. Area 3 is equals to calculate rectangle area and then maybe we can work with maybe some other values like 100 and maybe 700 and see what we are going to have there. So now the third one I'm just going to print out. I'm going to print out, maybe I can start with an F. And then, okay, let me print out area 3. Area 3. And see what we are going to get. So you can see the difference. For the first part, we had strings. So these strings are actually used to explain, like they are just trying to explain what that specific value represents. Like I know you must have been told that whenever you're writing codes, you have to ensure that you write steps. You use referencing in this case to ensure that whenever you come back later, you are able to understand what you are doing on that specific code. So these are actually used to, they are majorly used when you want to know, or even you want to be able to remember what you did for that specific code, maybe sometimes in future. So this is the area of the first rectangle, 5 times 3, which should give us 15. The second one is 10 times 7, which should give us 70. And then the third one should be 100 times 700, which should give us 70,000. So that is area 3. Maybe I can put that within square brackets, not square brackets, but maybe quotation marks, area 3, and close that. And we now have that. Okay, so that is it.
Sorry.
Yes?
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
I want to tell them to fill the feedback form.
Okay.
I would employ them to just fill. It won't take so much time. Just tell us how the session has been, and I just sent it to in the comments. Please, I would like everyone to fill. And once you fill, just reply done. I'd like much response from here, please.
Okay.
You have 82 persons on the group, so minimum of 40 should fill this form.
Okay, so I believe all
give
of
them
us.
a few minutes so that you just quickly fill the form.
Okay, so maybe go through, fill the form within 2 minutes or 3 minutes, and then we can continue from there.
Ooh. Mr. Probably you have to continue. Let me rephrase. Did you hear me?
Yes, I didn't. Did you say anything?
Please.
Okay.
Continue. The form is having issue. Let me resolve it.
Okay. So, like I said, I think I saw someone saying that it's confusing him, Kelly. Kelly, where did you maybe where were you lost? You might have gotten lost somewhere. What should I repeat? Is Kelly here? Okay. And maybe you can let me know if I'm too fast. Kindly let me know. Let me know, so that we be together in this discussion. So let me now take you to the other example of a function. This is a function with default parameters. It is a function with default parameters. Remember, you learn about so many functions. I know you might have not gone through functions within the course content that you went through, but they are very, very important. So assume, in this case, assume we want to address people with their titles. We want to address people with their titles. Whenever you meet someone, assume it's me, Musa. So you either address me as Mr. Musa, or even maybe as Dr. Musa, or even as maybe Professor Musa. So we want to call out people with their titles. So that means that we are going to come up with a new function whose function name is greet with title. This one is always open. Like you can come up with any function name that you would want to have, any function name. So for this specific one, we are defining greet with title. And then this one takes two inputs. It takes two inputs. That is the name of the person and the title of the person. And in this case, the title is equals to Mr. The title is equals to this, Mr. For example, Mr. So this is the second parameter. This is the first parameter, the name of the person, and this is the second parameter. And then this should be the output. This should be the output in this case. So for this specific function, the output is going to be hello, followed by the title. In this case, the title can be Mr. or what has been defined as the input. If we come up with another input, then assume we come up with another input like Mrs. or even maybe Sir or even maybe Professor in this case. It's going to replace the initial input or even the default input. So in this case, the default input is Mr. That is the default input. But this can be changed. It can be changed. Once people come up with new inputs, then those inputs replace the default input. So the output is going to contain hello, then the title, and then the name of the person. So these are functions with default parameters. Like we are not defining parameters like what we were doing here. For this case, we had length and width, and these were open-ended. Like we would type in new values, 5, 3, 10, 7. It was open-ended. But for this case, we have a default parameter. Like one of the parameters is default. Like title should be Mr. If the title has not been provided within the code, then use Mr. as the default title for that person. Now, let me give you, let me take you to this. So for example, if we call out that specific function, if we call out that, assume we now want to greet Smith, and we've not been provided with the title that you'd go hand in hand with the name Smith, then for that case, we have not been provided. Then the second one is John. This input is going to old title, and then so this means it's also going to the old one. It is going to replace title. So let us run that. Let us run that, and you can see the output. You can see the output. Now for this one, you have hello, Mr. Smith, because there was no, the input was not provided. So it picked the default, Mr. Then the second one is hello, Dr. Johnson. It used what was provided as the input. And the third one was Miss. So you can actually use that. We can also use that maybe below. Let me create a new one. Let me add a cell below. So what if I have something like greet with title, and then I have the name of the person. Maybe it's let me use Irafe. But assume that is the name of the person, and then the second parameter in that case is maybe professor, and see what is going to happen. Professor. And let us run that. So you can see the output is hello, Professor Irafe. Hello, Professor Irafe, because that is what should be the output. So what it does is that it replaces the default parameter. Otherwise, if the title was not provided, then the default parameters are used. And we can actually use this. We can actually use this most of the times. Like assume you're selling different types of fruits, or even different types of maybe instruments within your shop. And you know, for each instrument, they usually have a fixed price. You always have a fixed price. Like cocoa goes maybe for $10, or maybe cocoa maybe goes for $10. Maybe a kilogram of meat goes for maybe also $10. So that those values are fixed. So if someone buys maybe a kilogram of cocoa and maybe a kilogram of meat, then for you to be able to compute the totals, then you're going to pick the fixed parameters and then add them together. You pick the fixed parameters and add them together, and you're going to get the output. So in this case, we have those functions that are fixed parameters, or even default parameters in this case. Okay.
Sorry, Musa.
Hello.
Yeah, can you hear me? I've dropped on that link. I don't know. Please, I think some persons have been typing. I think we have 3, 6, 9, 12 persons that filled the form. So encourage more people to fill the form also. I just replied done.
Sure. I think we can do that. As we continue, let us continue registering to help us in knowing what went on well and what should be improved, what we should work on. So kindly let us fill in the links. Let us. It won't take us a lot of time. Actually, a minute or maybe 2 minutes. So let us fill in the links, and when we are done, we can just type done on the chat.
So you have one question on function.
Someone has, okay.
Yeah.
Where is that question?
You can go up before the done.
Okay. Function is placed at the third week, and last week we were asked to submit work using an unknown alien called function. I am here to grasp it for peace. I'm not sure whether that is a question, but okay. Where is the question? I can't seem to get the question. My question, how do I know where to put return and where to put print to get result? Okay, I think that was a question. Nash. Okay, you're asking how do you know where to put return and where to put print? Now, most of the times you'll be dealing with different maybe problems that you are looking forward into solving. And all that you should know is that just like I said, this is a general syntax. This is the general syntax. So in one way or another, you're going to use return. So for example, if you had a code here to execute, let me give you an example. You had a code to execute. For example, in this case, this is the code that should be executed. Result is equals to you had this, yeah. Result is equals to A plus B. So in this case, this is the code that should be executed. So if you have that specific code to be executed, then what you return is this specific, maybe let me call it variable. In that case, it is a variable because it would be the result of adding A and B. So the output should be this in most cases. If you look at what we've been doing, for example, in this case where we are having area, we are defining that, not defining that, but we are inputting our code. This is the code that should be run. Area is equals to length times width. So what we return is this. So if you have a code here that should be executed, then the variable here is what should be the output in most cases. Now, if you also have, let me see, if you have print, for example, in this, you can't have print and return at the same time. But in this case, for example, let me just show you this. Let me copy this and show you below. Let me just copy that and show you what I was talking about. Okay. Okay, so we have this. We have this specific function. We have that specific function. Now, I want us to use return. And what we return is print. Let us return print, because that is what we are executing. Return print and see what is going to happen. So let me, okay, let me run that. Now, after running that, you can see what we are having here. So hello, welcome to Python. Give me a minute, just a minute. Sorry for that. Give me a minute.
Musa, you can continue, but we implore you guys to still fill the form. The response is quite low. We're talking about 40 responses for gotten less than that.
Sorry about that. Sorry about that.
Musa, you can continue.
Okay, sorry about that. So as I was saying, we have different types of variables and also different types of functions. So for that specific function, there are times when you'll be using return and some other times you won't be forced to use return. So like what we did just above there, we used return. We use return. Now there are some other cases whereby you won't be forced to use return. So as long as you've used print, it's not a must for you to use return. You just print out the output. So this serves the same purpose as this specific value here. So like that specific code is telling Python to print out the result of, or even to print out this as the output in that case, which serves the same purpose as return. Okay, so let us progress to the next. Assume we want to check whether a number is even or odd. We want to check whether a number is even or odd. So in that case, we are going to come up with a specific function, and our function is this specific, it has this specific name or even variable. So we are defining is even, and in our case here, the input should be a number. The input should be a number. So if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, in that case, I believe you know the meaning of modulus. If what remains after dividing that number by 2 is equals to 0, then the number is even. Otherwise, if what remains after dividing the number by 2 is not 0, then the number is false. So in this case, we've used the concept of conditional statements. We've used the concept of if. So if number modulus 2 is equals to 0, then return true. Else, return false. So let us print, in this case, our function. Let us print our function if the input is 4, if the number is 4. Let us see what is going to happen. If the number is 4, so we are going to pick 4 divided by 2, which gives us 0. And in that case, we are going to have true as the output. Otherwise, if the number was 7, you know that if you pick 7 divided by 2, 7 divided by 2, you get 3 remainder 1. So the modulus is not 0. So the output in that case would be false. Is what we are going to get. How do we know whether a number is, how do we square a number using these functions? How do we square a number? So we define our function. The function is square, and then the input is number. So we return the number multiplied by, the number raised to power 2. We return the number raised to power 2. So for our case, what if the input was 6? If the input was 6, then what would be the output? So the output is that 6 for our case. So our variable name is square in that case, or even our function name is square. And then what should be returned? It's the number raised to power 2. So let us now print out the square of 6. The square of 6 gives us that 6. So in that case, the input is 6. So you can see in our that specific code, we are having a specific parameter. We have a specific parameter, which is num. That is our parameter. Some others will not require these parameters. Now, how do we create a function which is a list of zeros? A function which is a list of zeros, a function containing maybe different zeros, number of zeros. So we define our zero list, and our zero list will be marked by our input. So the input in this case is the length. So the output should contain 0 times the length. Now the length in this case represents the number of zeros. How many zeros do we want? If we want 10 zeros, then our length would be 10. If we want 5 zeros, then our length would be 5. If we want maybe if we want 6 zeros, then the length would be 6. So we print zero list and replace that with 5. We print zero list and replace that with 5, or even we replace the input with 5 and see what is going to be our output. And as you can see we have different zeros, 5 zeros in that case. So it is 0 times 5. And the output is going to have 5. It's going to be 5. So it's like it's trying to concatenate or even join all those zeros together. And maybe we can go through this. This will be our last one. It will be our last one. We can't go through the entire concept today. It's really long. It's really long. So I'm going to take us through this. This should be the last one, and then we can call it a day. So we want to now come up with a function that calculates the average of a list. The average of a list. So our function name is average. That is our function name. It is average. And the input in that case should be numbers. That is the input. So what should be the output is the sum so the output should be the sum of the numbers, divided by the length of the numbers. So if the numbers are 10, then we add them together, we divide them by the length. How many are they? Are they 10? Are they 11? We divide them by the length. So for example, you have this specific input. So our numbers here, it's 10, 20, 30, and 40. So we print the average. So the average in that case would be the average of the numbers, which would be 25. So we add all these numbers, divide by their length. So that is it. That is it. That is it. I believe all of us are good. So before I continue from there, let me welcome anyone with a question. If you have a question, kindly, you can raise up your hand. You can raise up your hand.
Hey, Musa, are you there? Like, is having network issue?
Yes, I am here. I was looking to check whether I was just checking whether you guys we are then guys with questions. But anyway, so I believe most of us are good. So that is what we were supposed to do. Now, after you're done with that, the next thing was saving. You ensure that you save your file, that is your IPYNB file. And after saving that file as a Jupyter Notebook, the next thing is you had to change. There are people who are asking about downloading the file. Now,
Musa, sorry
yes?
to interrupt. Can you do a walkthrough on how to submit? Because some persons are having this issue. So if you don't work with them from their end, probably they share their screen and we'll walk them through it.
Okay. Okay, so you download the file. So after you save the changes, those are going to be updated within your local storage. So just a minute, let me present my entire screen so you see what I'm talking about. Okay, so now I hope you're able to see my entire screen. Can you confirm kindly? Okay, thank you. Thank you. So after you save those changes, the changes are going to be saved within your local storage. Like if you open this specific file here, you're going to notice that it has everything that you've been working on. So what you are supposed to do is you now change it into a zipped file. So you click on, or even you right click, and then click on compress to zip file. You compress to zip file. That is what you are supposed to do. So you compress to zip file, you click on that. And after clicking on that, a new notebook or even a new file is going to be created. You can change the name of the notebook, maybe code challenge, or maybe something else. Let me call it that, and then save. So now this is a saved file, or even it is a zipped file. So the next thing is to append that onto your portal. So you proceed to the portal. And then just a minute. Okay, let me redo that again. So before I maybe continue, you are also not supposed to create any new cells within your document. You're not supposed to create any new cells. You are also not supposed to create any new maybe do any changes or even change any codes within your cells. The only thing that you're supposed to do is maybe input some new codes within. I know there were different regions that were showing you where to input the codes, and yeah, so that is what you are supposed to do. Not sure whether this is going to maybe allow me to take you through that. Okay, for me, I already did that, but once you navigate to this, you're going to click on Start Test. I'm not sure whether if I click on this, it's going to affect anything. So you click on Start Test, and after clicking on Start Test, you're going to see two options. One option is going to ask you to download a file, and the other one is going to ask you to upload the answers. So you click on upload answers, and after clicking on upload answers, you now select on this specific document, the zipped one, this one. That is what you're supposed to do. You click on this specific document, the zipped one. And after clicking on that, you wait until it uploads. After uploading, then you click continue, and it's going to auto grade. You can actually download you're going to see something, maybe a file that is going to show you what you've gotten. I think it's going to be something like this. Let me see. It's going to be something like this. Yeah, it's going to be something like this. You're going to see maybe somewhere where you can download the auto-graded test. So after downloading it, it's going to be something like this, showing you where you passed, where you went wrong. So if maybe the first cell was wrong, then it's going to show that one failed, and you can know where you went wrong. And then below here, you're going to see the percentage. Down here, you're going to see the percentage, what you got in that specific test. So that is it. I don't know whether you have any other questions.
I think some persons are raising up their hand, and I did this. Is there any
Someone
other
is
person that is
raising.
having
I have a
if you
question.
can share your
Good
screen?
evening. Yeah, please, I have
Okay.
a question.
Okay.
Okay, good evening. Please,
Good
my
evening.
question is in the Python notebook where you were talking about I don't know how to put the question, but the part where you had Mr., Miss, different profession, different titles, and you were like they
Okay.
could change it. I think is where you now did the one for professional. Not yet, go up a little bit. Where you said name, title, and all that.
Yeah, this one.
Yes. So you said something about it is not fixed, it can be changed and all that. So my question is it the double column you put at the end of the dev greet with title that indicated that we can actually change it instead of Mr. You know, there are some that are fixed. You can't change, like this one you did with professor, meaning
Okay.
that it has to always be professor.
So like
But
this
yours
is this is like these are default parameter. It's a default parameter. And when you talk
Is it
about
the
default
professor that
parameters
is
in this
default
case,
parameter or the Mr.? You wrote two different code, one for professor. Hello, Professor Ifre. Then the other one is name title Mr. Name title Mr. is not the default parameter, but the one for professor is. So I'm asking you, is it the double column you put in the name title equals Mr. that helps one know that, oh, this is not default. You can change it at any time. Is it the double column you put?
okay, the double column.
Yes.
Okay. Now, let me just explain this. No, actually, it's not the double colon. This specific code here, or even this specific, let me call it code. It's dependent on the first one. Like that, what I said is that most of these functions are usually reusable. We can reuse them. Like I can type in a specific function and then use the entire function within my old document, within my old notebook. So for this one is dependent on this one. So this was the default one. That is, if a person has not been given a title, then use Mr. for that specific person. And this would be actually, maybe it would actually appear in all of, it would appear in all of, all it would appear besides all the names. For example, assume I change this name to Susan. We know that Susan is female. We know that Susan is female. If I change that and I fail to maybe input a title, then let us see what is going to happen. You can see the output is hello, Mr. Susan. So the default parameter here is Mr. That is, if someone has not been given a title, then use Mr. as the default parameter, or even as the default input.
Okay,
Otherwise,
I get you.
yes.
The double colon, what's the function of that double colon you put after the Mr.? That's what I'm asking. What's the function of that double colon?
This one, it's used to show, I mean, it is used at the end of every function. In this case, we are defining a function, and the function in this case contains the name and the input. So it is used at the end of all the functions. Like if you are very, very keen, this is the general syntax for functions. You define the function using a function name and the input in that case, which is now the parameters. Then what follows is a code and the result.
Okay, I understand now. I understand.
Yeah, actually, I've been using those columns everywhere. You can see they are there everywhere.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So this file you use in this class now, is it shareable? Can you share it so we can go through it, or it's for your own personal use?
Well, I can still share it. I can still share it. I can still share it with you if you need it, because yeah, it contains everything from the different types of structures, that is lists, the different types of list, tuples, operators, and everything. It contains everything.
Please,
Actually,
can you share it for us on the WhatsApp group so we can download and use it?
okay, I will.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Now, any other person with a question? Any other person with a question, or any other hand? Cynthia, are you able to see any other hand which is raised up?
No, for now. I think Emmanuel has been raising up his hand, but I gave him the floor to speak, but he has to say anything. The expected pass mark, I think it should be 70.
I think, my hand was up. I didn't know what, my hand was up. CY is also, CY's hand is also up.
My hand?
I think CY.
I am CY. taking my hand down since. I think that's all for now. Okay, Mohammed said he's raising up his hand. Let me give him access to speak. Okay. Now, Mohammed, you have the floor now. Mohammed, can you hear me? Mohammed.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
Yeah, I was asking that all what Peter took us through, is it part of the modules? Because I have never seen this inside the first, second, third, and fourth module. So I'm just trying to follow up, but I'm just asking that is it part, or is that how the code challenge will be? That's my question.
Okay, so
Hello?
what I took you through today, Emmanuel, this is what you'll be required to, that is what you'll be required to use within the code challenge. The code challenge entails all this, and it wasn't covered within the first, the second, the third, and even the fourth. Most of it was about just a list. It was about list. It was also about tuples. It was also about sets and also dictionaries. But the code
Okay.
challenge has everything about functions. It's 100% about functions. So I thought it good to just take you through that, because taking you through the actual code challenge is against the ALX code of conduct. So, but
Okay.
what we've just gone through, I think that would be beneficial.
Okay. And also, will you mind sharing this your notebook? Hello. I'm saying, will you mind sharing your notebook?
Sure, I will. I will share the notebook with you.
Okay. And also, the Friday section, will you also share that notebook?
For the Friday session, I believe a link was shared. If I'm not wrong, I believe a link was shared in one of the groups. So I believe Cynthia, do you have the link?
The link to what?
The Friday session, a recording
Yes,
to the
yes,
Friday
it's on the group.
session.
It's
Yeah,
on the group.
I think it's on the group. So maybe you can specify
Is it
which group. The general, it's on the general group. So
but I did not see it on the Kenya group. That's why I'm asking.
okay. So I think I'm going to get a copy and then share it within the Kenyan group.
Okay. Thank you very much.
You're most welcome.
I think that'll be all for today. I don't think any other person have any other question. Just the last 1 minute. If you've not filled the feedback session, the feedback form, you can help us fill it out. And we thank everyone for joining this session today. And I think you gained value from this. So I think that'll be all for now. We'll see you next week. Don't forget to submit your code challenge at due time. So I'll wait for like 1 minute before ending the meeting. Musa, thank you so much. We really appreciate it. This was a mind-blowing session.
Thank you too for hosting this, and also for being part of this. And thank you all for joining in. May you enjoy your day and also your week ahead.
All right, bye everyone.